Hi, I'm Linda Marson from Global Spiritual Studies. I launched the website back in 2011. Tarot is my particular subject, so that's what you'll find mainly on the website are classes on tarot. And one of my very early presenters was Jenne Perlstein, a colleague of mine from Australia. And has recorded a wonderful set of 12 classes, which can be bought as classes 1 to 6 and then classes 7 to 12. And these are on client skills for tarot readers. So it's my pleasure to be having a chat with her now about the course. Maybe just before we start looking at the content of those 12 classes, what's your background in terms of tarot and psychology and counselling and so on?
Hi, Linda and everyone. Thank you. Yeah, I'm a social worker of, I'm losing track of time. This year it would have been, it'll be, I think, 38 years as a social worker. But prior to that, I did a degree in medicine. So I'm a bit unusual. I didn't actually practice as a doctor. But within that, of course, you study psychology and psychiatry. And then in social work, I was obviously doing counselling and working in mental health. So I saw, huge numbers of clients. And then over the years, look, that's also been quite a long time too. I've been a tarot reader and astrologer. And so many years of practice working with clients. And I realised that there are many, of course, tarot readers and astrologers who've got a background in psychology or counselling or whatever, or go on to do that. There are others, though, who come into the field who have, I guess, more innate skills and certainly want to, be very professional and aware of their interactions with the people they see, but may not have those formal backgrounds. And I, particularly in my tarot practice, I combine it with the counselling and say that tarot astro counselling is what I call it. So I realised that there was an important area for tarot readers, astrologers, anyone doing similar work to have that ability to know, actually be a bit more conscious of the skills that they're using. We often see people distressed who have got life decisions to make, and as well as who can sometimes present with, one might term mental health issues. And so I developed this course to try to address those needs, particularly for tarot readers and consultants, so that they understand, got some skills and some understanding of what, without going into being a counsellor for someone, and this course certainly doesn't make you qualified to be a counsellor, but it really just outlines some of the key tips and skills and ways of thinking about things that might enable you to offer a better and deeper experience with tarot. So, and what the next steps might be, so that if someone is depressed, or you're thinking, they seem a bit strange, this person, and they're talking about having conversations with the devil or something. What do you do about that? Who do you refer to? So, and knowing your boundaries, that's really a key thing with it. So as you can see up on the screen, the course is divided up into sort of sessions which cover particular areas. There's 12 in total, but it really covers counselling, some background in really I guess things like attachment and so on, because so many of the issues we see with people, of course, are the relationship ones, and that's what people come with all the time. And so having some understanding of someone's upbringing, and where some of their needs and so on come from, can enable you to have a better understanding, and not for you, but to be able to offer that to the client so that they've got a little more insight and awareness of what might be happening. And then it enables the tarot to then have greater depth and a different way of bringing out the person's unconscious and the issues or decisions they might have to make.
Yeah. So just there's a few things here on the because there are 12 sessions in the course,
Mm-hmm.
and you've just been talking generally about the introductory things,
Mm-hmm.
but now we're just there's a few examples of the sort of information that you're imparting here.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to
Yes.
the I always find the cognitive behavior therapy an interesting one myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because, really what that is it's very commonly used by many counsellors and psychologists and all sorts of people now. But it really says, look, what you think is then what manifests how you feel and what your and what your innate beliefs are. And then that then leads to the behaviour that you manifest. So, for example, if you think you've got low self-esteem, if you don't feel that you're a worthy person, then you're going to maybe be feeling a bit down or insecure, lacking in confidence. And then that can lead to behaviour of maybe not interacting with people or struggling with, say, job interviews or connecting with people to develop relationships. And these often can be repeated patterns. So that's just an example. So we run through some of the different sort of counselling theories and psychological theories. And I guess I've drawn upon things that I've found useful in actual practice or from my social work, as well as things that I think are particularly pertinent to tarot readers, and everyone will have their own style. It's not saying to try to attempt to use all of these or you become an expert in them, but I think often people have some unconscious abilities, and the course attempts to make people a little more consciously competent in what they're
Yeah.
doing and might understand
Mm,
where that's coming from. Yeah.
mm. Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I always do is um, when I'm starting off a tarot reading with someone is that I'm explaining that one of the things that I particularly focus on is getting the question right, getting a clear
Mm.
question. And I think when you're having that discussion, that's when you start to pick up on some of these issues, wouldn't you?
That's right,
Yeah,
absolutely, and
yeah,
you're exactly right. And I think too, it's important to be flexible and adaptable, so that you might, as say, you've done this course, and you may do some further study or reading or whatever, and you think, oh, I think this is someone's really stuck in their self-beliefs,
mm,
so I might
mm,
draw upon some cognitive behavior, or we're looking at, say, early family dynamics and attachment with the parent, which might be anxious attachment when they were a child.
mm,
So that then, you might draw upon more what we call psychodynamic theories.
mm.
So, yeah, and I think I like that. I always like that slide. Ego is not a dirty
Yes,
word.
the word. Yeah.
We had a song in Australia years ago from Skyhawks, and that was the title of the song. So, and I really think it is. I mean, sometimes people say, "Oh, you're so egocentric" or whatever. But if we don't have a degree of ego, a sense of self, and there's different terminologies for these things. But if you don't have some sense of who you are, then it can easily be, you just either become a doormat or you get overwhelmed by emotional pain. It enables you to have some inner strength and also to be able to learn to stand back and see where the feelings and so on are coming from. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and because doing a tarot reading for someone is really about having a sort of informed conversation where
Mm,
you sort of gently asking questions and then seeing what the response is. And of course, you've got this wonderful mechanism of allowing people to look at the card, and then they can look at the card themselves and
that's
go,
right.
"Oh, okay, there's,
Yes.
you know."
Yes.
I mean, I'll just use the example that's on the screen there, the sun. I
Yeah.
mean, you can easily, have that there. Someone's in a dark place, and then for some reason that card of the sun comes out.
Mm.
So there's a lot to talk about just with the imagery of the card.
Exactly. And the cards are designed to draw out those things, both on the literal level, and as we know, the deeper unconscious things that come out in those conversations that we have with clients. And I like what Liz Green in the quote at the bottom, who's a famous astrologer, you need an eye first before you can transcend that eye. And so that brings in the spiritual aspects of it, which, tarot and so on are. And it's a way of connecting with, maybe moving beyond, and feeling more connected with whatever spirit means for you. Sometimes for some people, it's as simple as really getting in touch with your higher self, or that wise part of you, which I think everyone carries, but we often choose to ignore, because you need a quiet space. You need an ability to stop and feel that, and get the sense of what that wiser part of yourself is trying to communicate to you.
Oh yes, and I was just the other thing that I always say to people, I'll record this, record the actual reading, and then they've got a copy of it. And I said, because often when you go away from a tarot reading, or you go away with what you want to hear and not what's actually.
Absolutely. And of course too, I get people to take a picture of the cards, so that they can sit with those images, as well as whatever they've recorded. And exactly, there's often a deeper meaning, or sometimes you get feedback from people, as we both would, who later go, that reading you did for me, it's only later that it really clicked, what was, you were trying to tell me, or what I meant to be doing, and decisions I need to be making.
And so, I mean, these are the sorts of issues that you're covering in the sessions 7 to 10, because I mean, all of these just come into play whenever you've got an issue, because people don't come for a tarot reading when they're feeling happy and
no,
and
happy and
all's
relaxed.
rosy with the world.
That's
All's
right.
rosy with the world.
That's right. No,
yeah.
And these are the common things we get all the time, don't we, Linda? Of, relationships, and oh, why won't he leave his wife for me? Or people describing their relationships, and you're hearing the codependency, of where you've got someone who's in a more responsible parental role, and the other person's more like in the irresponsible child role. It's really getting people to come back to recognizing that often it comes from their childhood patterns of their relationships with their parents. And again, whilst we're not trying to make people psychotherapists or whatever, it's just getting people to, I just often ask general questions about, how did you get on with your mum, your dad? If you're when you're a child, if you were distressed, could you talk to your mum or talk to your dad, or your same-sex parent? You can't make assumptions. And they will say, oh no, I couldn't really show my vulnerability, or oh no, mum would get angry if I talked about that. And then you're starting to pick up on that. As children, for this person, they didn't get necessarily all the nurturing they needed. And that, in fact, affects not only intimate relationships, but friendships, work relationships, all of that. So the course tries to cover some of those things, and also, just the common things. I've had a woman came to me with her children, actually, fleeing from her husband, who she knew was very likely to inflict violence upon them, and she fled the house and came to me because she wanted, some guidance, and should she leave him, and so on. And that's when I went into my social work role, and that's where I think it's so important for tarot readers to know when you need to go, hang on, the tarot here is not so important. The person's safety or their mental health well-being or whatever is more the priority. And so I actually then gave her information about family violence services, and told her to go. She was able to, we worked out a safe place that she could go to. So it's being adaptable so that you're not just focused on that they've come for a tarot consultation. It's being holistic and looking at the person's whole life and what needs to happen in the here and now.
Yeah. There are a couple of shorter things that we have available on Global Spiritual Studies. These are double classes. One with the very interesting title of The Secret Ingredient for Effective Relationship Reading, and then the other one, Tuning into Difficult Clients, which is sort of what we've just been, some of the stuff that you've just been talking about. But in terms of doing effective relationship reading, because I mean, honestly, every second person's coming along, at least every second person, if not more.
That's right. Yes. It's bread and butter. It's bread and butter.
Yeah. So, in a nutshell, what is the secret ingredient? With everyone's appetite for.
I've touched on it really. It is looking at that person's family and parental background, really, and then seeing, the areas of their life that they didn't get the nurturance that they needed, and how that then manifests in the relationships that they do have. And I'm simplifying it a bit, but it's to try and get to the nub of those things, and for people to recognise that in their adult life they are in some ways reliving the parent-child relationship they had when they were younger and trying to resolve it, but it may not be realistic to do that, and then they're getting into habits and dynamics that are not functional for them. So the course really goes into those aspects in a little more depth. Yeah. And then the difficult clients one is really more about difficult in the sense of sometimes people don't want to open up, for example, or come expecting one thing and you're offering something else. It can be people who, you can see you doing the reading and you're giving your interpretation and so on, but they're still not quite satisfied. They're obsessing about something. So it just gives some skills in how to, for example, ensuring that you're asking questions that are open-ended rather than closed. Like, so tell me more about what happened, or rather than, oh, so you feel angry about that? Which is a closed question, yes or no. So it's just some of those basic sorts of things to enable you to make it a bit more smooth sailing. Yeah.
Okay, so the client skills for tarot readers, that you can buy that in classes 1 to 6 or 7 and 7 to 12, and that's $160 for each of those. Okay, so just in closing, is there anything you'd just like to add about the importance of sort of addressing these, what we're calling client skills?
Yeah, I think that, again, it's not a course to make you a counsellor, but it's really just drawing out some of the skills and some of the theories, I guess, behind what counsellors do, but also as it applies to doing tarot or astrology. This is also based, as I said, on many years of experience, and being able to handle the things that really you're not qualified to deal with. I've had people call me. I had one fellow I never forget who rang and said, "Oh, I'm ringing because I've got, I want to come and see you so you can help me interpret and understand the stigmata that I've got on my hands." And I'm saying, the stigmata? He said, "Oh, yes, because, I believe I was Jesus and I've got the wounds from the cross in my hands." And immediately I went into, this person has is severely delusional and has mental health
Yeah.
issues,
Yeah.
not a good idea for me to come and see him. And I just asked a few probing questions about, so, oh, you know, it sounds like this is important for you. And, you know, I validated how he was feeling and so on. But I said, do you have people that you see, a counsellor that you see, or a psychiatrist? And he goes, oh, yes. And I think he said, oh, yes, I just decided to come off my medications. And I said, look, I understand that, but I think given what you're telling me, I think I'm not really the person to be able to help you. I think you need to go back and see your doctor or whoever it was. And that he was fine with that. It's those simple things of just being empathic, but recognizing, okay, this is not my area of expertise, and heading people in an appropriate direction. And that's why we have ethics and so on as tarot readers that are really important to recognize that. And I cover some of those things in the course. So yeah, that's an example of, yeah, people come to tarot because they are distressed. They've got life problems, and that can manifest in so many different ways. And you need to be a bit prepared. And hopefully the course, I believe it can really skill you up to be able to do that.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much for your time, Jenny. And
Pleasure.
I hope that inspires some of the people who watch this to actually invest in at least some of the classes. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.